welcome everyone who's listening or viewing on YouTube to the Ignorant Uce Podcast. I'm your host, Creative Taro, and I'm very excited to introduce you guys today's guest. We've actually been having a pretty cool talk just off air before we got recorded, and I was thinking, man, the bro's dropping a lot of stuff. I should probably press record right now. But I'll hand it over to you, bro, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Matt. I run Percy's Vintage, Percy's Headwear. There's actually two of us that run it. My wife Juliet also does a lot of the legwork. She's the brains behind kind of Percy's Vintage, and I'll be the face, or everyone thinks my name's Percy, so I can be the Percy, and she makes sure we can still pay rent and make sure everything's ticking behind the scenes.
The better half.
100%. Yeah, so that's kind of like we've been doing it a while now, probably six years as Percy's, but we've always thrifted forever or op shopped. Yeah, it's just like kind of a better way for us to buy clothes, and you get way cooler shit if it's secondhand.
Shit, yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Harder.
So I guess I think that's kind of me. That's us.
Nice little succinct. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Because I just asked you before about the Percy thing, and if you get called Percy out on the street and stuff, where does Percy come from?
Percy is kind of it's kind of funny now. We laugh about it. So people are gonna crack up. So me and my wife, we had applied. We were like, we're gonna get a dog. I was like, set, and I've been talking about it for years. Like, we're gonna get a greyhound. We're gonna call it Percy, and we're gonna get this dog, like, and we'll call it Percy straight up. That was it. And we were like dead set. We met the Gap, like Greyhounders Pets people, and they were like, yep, you're approved. We'll get you, like, get your dog, whatever. And then they sent around like a lady, and she came and like had a look and was like, your fence is too low, your driveway doesn't work. Okay. Right. Got bounced. And in that like gap of getting approved to actually getting bounced, we were like, well, we've been selling stuff on Trade Me and like at flea markets and stuff, so we could just call our business, like, if we're going to start one, let's call it Percy's, and it'll be after our dog. Like, yeah. It'll be lit, like the dog can be the face of our brand, and we'll call it that. And then we just didn't get the dog, and it was like stink ass. And we were like, well, we can't change it now. Like, when you start an Instagram where you see people start and they just get like followers quite quickly.
Yep.
Because there wasn't many vintage pages. So we started and we got like,
got to stay on brand.
150, 200 followers, 300 followers in like a few days, that we were like, fuck, okay.
Yep.
We'll just keep it as Percy's. That's all good. And we'll just like we'll never tell a soul. Like, we'll keep it quiet. So I think this is like
Sorry, bro. Sorry.
The unveiling of... But as time's gone on, like, we got a dog. We got Bobby. He's a Hunterway Cross rescue special from Gisborne. So I flew down and picked him up.
Nice.
And we were like, we could rebrand to Bobby's, but then we were like, nah, Percy is like, Percy's is stuck. And it's kind of like
ingrained in people's minds.
Yeah, it's not like, because that's the other thing, that you have it and Jack has it and Josiah is like, there's a name that kind of represents your brand that isn't so much like NZ rack hunter thrifting NZ vintage. Yeah. Like, it's trying to be that, have like not a brand, but something that's a little bit more full than just something that's like the trend, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And now over time I've become Percy. Everyone's like, hey, Percy. And you're like, that'll do. Like, it's all good. And I don't really correct people. Like, I don't mind. I like it. It's not a bad name.
It's yeah, it threw me off because I thought your name was Percy as well. Yeah. I'm one of those guys. Yeah, absolutely. And then until you shared that story off air, I was, man, that is funny.
Yeah.
Great talking point though. Like, when people come to, actually, my name's not Percy. To see their face and reaction. What?
They're shocked.
Yeah, like, yeah.
What? Because also, I don't know any Percys. Like,
I actually don't know one.
Like, at school I was like Matt W, because there was 4 Matts in our class.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, cool. Percy will do, because I've got a couple of friends called Matt, and that's like, people just call me Percy, So you just take that in your stride, and it's not. I've been called worse.
For sure. Usually
Yeah.
by my missus though, so
Yeah.
bro. So you said you started what, 6 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was like late 2015, 2016.
What was the tipping point, bro?
We got married, and I've been like being a massive collector of all things. I had collected a bunch of t-shirts for myself that I really liked, like some Beavis and Butthead ones, some other random tees, like shit that I grew up that I really liked, that I was like, whoa, I'm an adult now, I can afford like this Beavis and Butthead t-shirt, or like a,
For real.
I can't even think of what else it was, like some X-Files t-shirts and stuff. And I just collected them all off Trade Me, and I probably paid like $5 or $10 for them. And we were trying to save up for a wedding, save up for our honeymoon. And I was like, look, I've got like 50 or 60 t-shirts. I'll just chuck 10 on my Facebook, like just on my, or my, maybe even, because I don't think Instagram had stories then. I think I might have either chucked them on my Facebook or the thing. And I was like $35 for like a Beavis and Butthead tee. And like it sold instantly to one of my mates. And then I was like, whoa, I just made like $25. Like, man, you know, and then I sold all like maybe 10 or 15 t-shirts I had listed. I sold them all like so fast. And then we were kind of like, well, this is pretty sick. Like we just made a little bit of money that we didn't really know we had. Like we didn't know the money was sitting in these teas, you know? And then we got married, went on our honeymoon, and we just thrifted our whole honeymoon. Like it was kind of mental. Like we had a like beautiful hotel in like Palm Springs, like the Ace Hotel. And we're like lying on like in our room, and we're like, do you know what would be better than this? It's like going thrifting. And we like look on the computer, and it's like Goodwill shuts at 9. And we were like, okay. We ended up coming back from our honeymoon with like 4 suitcases worth of stuff.
Damn.
Not necessarily to sell, but we were just like, this is cool that you can't find at home.
Cool, yeah.
And then we just like, the kind of markets thing just kind of organically happened. Like we saw there was a market on the North Shore, like a clothing and homewares kind of market. So we were like, let's just try and like sell a rack, like a little few things there. And yeah, kind of did that. And then we were like, whoa, we made $500 or like $400 today. We were like, fuck, okay, this is sick. And then the Instagram platform kind of like came out, and it was just like a little bit easier to kind of we weren't even, I think, like if you look right back to our beginning of our Instagram, it was definitely not like flat lays $50. It was kind of like, these are the things that we like finding. Here's our little website where we'll do like a little 10 drop thing. Like it was always just something that we love doing. And when you have too much stuff, you tend to sell it. You know, that's kind of what, with anything. Yeah. And then it just obviously got way more as soon as you start learning about like tags, years, materials, like stitch patterns.
Yep.
You learn more about the garments, then like you just, I don't know, that's something like I wasn't good at school. I didn't like school. Like hated school. I left school at 16. And I like really kind of not struggled to learn, but I didn't enjoy learning about science or maths. You know, I struggled with that. But then you put like football shirts in front of me, or like Warriors jerseys or starter jackets, I'm like honed in.
Yep.
And I'll try and learn like everything about them. And that's, I think, the same thing with the hats. Like I just got one hat, and then it set me off. Like it was the beginning of the end.
Yep.
You know,
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and it's just started from being like interested in stuff that I had as a kid. And I feel like most people you'll talk to that sell vintage, they do it because they love the stuff from the 90s.
Absolutely.
It was either stuff you couldn't afford. Like I didn't have a starter jacket as a kid, so all I wanted was a Hornet starter jacket.
Yeah.
And I remember watching like Mighty Ducks and being like, far out. Like, man, I was lucky enough. I went to the States. I would have been, so I'm 32 now. It would have been like 1997. So just after Space Jam came out. And I remember being like obsessed with Michael Jordan, like stupidly obsessed with Michael Jordan. I went with my grandparents, and that's whatever money my parents had given me to go over there. I spent all of it on basketball cards and Mighty Ducks toys. And I remember being in like our rental car, just getting packets of basketball cards, tearing them open and just being like, Michael Jordan. And then like putting all the other cards just like not in a bin, but just like in the box. Like I didn't care
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah.
And it was just like that obsession with basketball was quite big at my school. Like growing up on the North Shore, it was kind of like we just had like I remember seeing Space Jam and being like, I'm obsessed with this. You know, Looney Tunes was everywhere in the 90s. They like did every collab under the sun. And I remember watching Space Jam and then going to America and just being like absolutely blowing my mind. And now I think it's kind of all comes back to that of being like, this was something that inspired me as a kid, or like something that one kid at my school had, and I was gutted. So now I've got 3 of them because it's some sort of like deep set trauma.
You got to break the cycle, bro. So you got to get it. You got to get the thing that you need.
Now it's like, okay, I've got too many things. Now I have to sell these things because you have to pay rent.
You brought up 2 really cool things that I wanted to get into and get your thoughts on. You talked about, getting into the tags, the history of it. And I think Josiah talked about it being like the art of vintage, and you become a historian, you become this deep obsession of going down that rabbit hole and researching. And you talked about it. You weren't great at school, and it's funny to me because I worked in education for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so if you can find a passion, an individual's passion, and then embed the literacy and numeracy into that, you can guarantee they're gonna get it
100%.
You just talked about it, like an NFL jersey. You would know the player history, what college they went to, maybe stats. That's all like learning there, bro. So that's the first thing I wanted you to maybe dive a little bit more into, and then the second thing is the nostalgia thing. And I think you did hit the nail, as like those memories as a child. And remember, your child mind is, the world is so big and massive and huge. Michael Jordan's not a human, by the way.
Yeah.
When you're 8, 9, 10 years old.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So those memories there, and I laugh when you say you kept the Michael ones. You threw away Penny Hardaway, Charles Barkley. You just kept the Michael ones.
And that's the thing. Like I can remember the smell of like opening packs of cards, and I saw recently I just bought a whole bunch of box cards, like sealed boxes of basketball cards. And now every time I rip a pack, it takes me exactly back to the backseat of the rental car.
That sensory experience, bro. Wow.
Yeah. And,
that is so cool.
And it kind of like, even talking about it makes me feel like I get goosebumps, because that's a time I it's crazy. I can't really explain it unless you have that experience yourself, where it's like deja vu almost. And you know how when you get deja vu, you get like a bit tingly, and you're like, is this like, where am I, kind of thing, like your brain tries to reset.
That's awesome, man.
And so that was me in those basketball cards. And like, I even know with the card craze, like I haven't jumped back into buying basketball cards, because now it's such an intense market.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like I remember going to Sterling Sports in the Glenfield Mall and buying basketball cards. Like my nana would pick me up from school and we'd go to Glenfield Pools, and then I'd go to Sterling Sports and go to Big Fresh and get some basketball cards, and that would be like what I would spend my pocket money on. And then obviously as you get older, you kind of just forget about them, and you find your folder again and you're like, whoa, here's all my Michael Jordan cards. And then like, the card craze, you're like, fuck, they're worth some money. But then you're like, nah, they're worth too much to me.
Hard. That experience you had and that memories you had at that time, bro, that's so amazing.
Also going to the States and being like, bro, look at this Vortex Mega Howler. I didn't even really have them.
Mega Howler.
And I came back and I had 2, and like turned up to school when you play Ball Rush or like Force Pack, like the ballingest kid. I was like, all I've got is this Vortex Mega Howler. Like, because cards were banned from our school. It was like, because people were stealing them and it was like getting ugly. So I was like, all I've got is this Vortex Mega Howler. Every time I hear them, I'm like, whoa, take me back.
I'm always like, giz a turn, bro.
Yeah. And like, it's so funny, like those little things, like that's a big one for me, is like those little memories. And I think like it's the same with my wife. She has things that she stumbles across now, and she's like, I had this as a kid. And then we now have a few of those things that we have as a kid tucked around our house. So
man, you highlighted something for me because I'm 2 years older than you,
Yeah,
and so I believe, in my opinion, that
yeah,
our generation, bro, are probably like the biggest sponges of like pop culture.
yeah,
And nowadays, I started young as a dad. I got a
yeah,
15-year-old now, bro, and so he's talking to me about stuff that I know a lot about because I was at the inception of those things.
yeah,
And then he's like, "Oh, Dad, you know," da, 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 da. I'm like, "Oh, you mean this?"
yeah,
And he's like, "How do you know?" And I'm like, bro,
yeah,
just because I'm your dad, doesn't it? Like, so we're doing a project, bro. If you can see behind me,
yeah.
just little arcade, and we chucked a retro pie in it and stuff. And he goes to me, "Want to play Street Fighter?" Oh, bro.
Unlucky.
Oh, bro. I go to him, "Do you just want me to punch or kick only?" Anyway, but we played like 10 games and he won one. But you just cracked me up, bro, because even though we're the biggest kids, like we are
Yeah.
huge, like, and I can see it in you when you talk about it. Like, yeah, the bros like me is a big kid, like we enjoy that shit. But sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there, but
No,
you
that's so
just
good because it's like I guess with you and my dad. So my mum and dad had me when they were 17 and 19.
yeah,
And so I grew up with the dad who I would have been, 5 and he's 24.
yeah,
And so he's like, we're watching Space Jam and he's like 25 years old watching
enjoying
Space
that
Jam
shit,
with me,
yeah.
and like my music influence, like I played in bands, like I played in like a couple of bands in Auckland and like got to tour and stuff, and that was cool. And my dad played in bands as well. And so you're like
That's cool,
having
man.
having that as like a big role model and having like a young dad.
Shit, yeah,
And like I remember sitting down, like the thing that I loved the most as a kid is like watching, like music is probably the thing that inspired me. Music and sports, like those are the two things that I love more than anything. And me and my dad used to sit down and watch like Ice TV and Max TV and make like VHS mixtapes. And he like taught me like VHS mixtapes with all the music videos. So we would sit there on the weekend and we're like, whatever, or like you think at the time, like my dad's only like 25, 26, and we're watching all these music
it's
videos.
still young, man.
Yeah. And you think like what I was doing at 26, and you're like, bro, he had like a 7-year-old
Yeah,
being like a menace.
little sidekick.
Yeah. And I think that's like pretty cool. And like I enjoyed those memories and those things that we used to do. And I think having young parents is pretty cool, and it definitely shapes me to be who I am.
Yeah,
Having like not just a dad, but like your best friend is there, and you like the same stuff. Like I remember him having like some sneakers and being like, whoa. And he'd be like, you can't, these are like $300 sneakers, like you can't have these. And then like just flexing on me so hard. Flexing like the hardest. Like I remember he had some of those like Agassi, what are they? They're like they have the orange on the side. They're like the brush strike ones. I think they're like, I want to say airstrike, but I think I'm wrong. So someone in the comments will roast me. But he had a pair of those, and I just remember being like, man, those are the coolest shoes like I've ever seen. And then getting to about 14 and being like, bro, those are corny, like skate shoes, man. Have you heard of skate shoes?
You
Like,
Osiris.
yeah, straight up. Getting me some like Avondale Markets Osiris. Hard flex.
Man, you brought up a really cool point having that young dad. I had a young dad as well. He was 20 when he had me. And my dad was a baller, bro. So he
Yeah.
played pro basketball. So I was around American import players who I thought were like Michael Jordan's cousins,
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't know any better. I was like, "Wow, do you know Michael Jordan?"
Yeah.
And so I got to see all sorts of sneakers, styles of clothing, and that for me had a huge influence on what I enjoy in life now. And I think I can hear that in you as well. Like,
Yeah, it is. It's 100%. Like I was in like like immersed in that cult, like in that what my dad was listening to, what he was wearing. Like I don't know. I would like to say not most people's fathers are their role models, but it's definitely plays a big part in like a male's life, whether it's like good or bad. I think it's kind of like, yeah, there's definitely things that I take away from my dad, and I'm like, wild. Like, I can't believe you do that. I do that, and it's petrifying because you do the same things, you know. Fuck, I didn't know I caught that one off you, but
Right, yeah.
but like,
Especially when your mum lets you know about it.
oh, hard.
You just did something your father does.
Yeah. Or even my wife will like hang out and we'll go to my parents, and me and my dad will just go, because like my dad is like super into football, same as me, like soccer, and because like my grandparents are from Newcastle in England, so they migrated. Yeah, and like live or die. Like
nice.
I like cried when they got relegated in like 2009. It was like I'd literally gone to a funeral. That's what it felt like.
Red and Purple Waves just kept going on and on about it, where he was like just gutted, eh?
Yeah, and it was so like having that. And my dad played football. I played football from 5 till like 24 until I blew my knee out. But I go to my parents' house, and we just like punish about football.
Yeah.
Like, don't stop talking about it. I like phone him once a week, and we just talk about football. And it's kind of wild. But he kind of is like buzzed out that I've gone like really into American sports as well. Like, follow the baseball, I follow the basketball. The only one I don't follow so much is football, but that's because there's only so many hours in the day to watch sports.
Yeah, I don't. What's happening in the baseball at the moment?
It's Braves. I follow Diamondbacks, and Braves are my teams that I like. And the Diamondbacks are playing the Dodgers at the moment in the playoffs to the World Series, and it's 3-1. And if the Braves win today, they go to the World Series, and they'll more than likely face the Astros, which is pretty exciting. Like,
yeah. I got some family that are baseball mad. Like, went over to the States and did the whole stadium thing, hot dog thing, and I enjoy sport. I can't say that I'm like a fan that follows. You know, I'm one of those guys that follows player more than a team.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys. Like, wherever LeBron's going, no. I'm not one of those guys, but I enjoy Shohei for sure.
Yeah,
I just love that, you know, this guy's from Japan and he's coming over and just killing it.
It's kind of nice. It's refreshing for the league.
It is, eh?
You know, like the thing with baseball is it's super old guard. Like, there's the old,
lots
like
of tradition, lots of
like the pitchers, the good pitchers are like pitching till they're 40. You know, like the good ones, and they'll just stick around. And then you get a young gun come in. He can hit, he can pitch. Like, unfortunately, he's on a team that will probably never win a ring.
Yeah.
But I think the Angels are doing like everything they can to, like, they've got the best batter in the whole league maybe has ever seen in Mike Trout, and they're kind of like still might not get a ring. Like, they're not even the best team from that league.
Yeah. You brought up something about music, bro, and we had a guest on just for kicks, and he has 3 go-to kind of like topics when he gets to know people.
Yeah.
The first one was music. So you brought up music. You brought up you played in bands. Your old man played in bands. What are your music influences, bro?
Probably like growing up was very like punk orientated.
Cool.
Like, I played in like, I would guess kind of like a punk-ish band.
People sleep on the fact that hip hop and punk have a really close connection.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it. A lot of people actually don't realize that connection.
Yeah. And then probably like, for me, like Ramones, Descendants, those kind of bands, the ones you see on t-shirts everyone has now.
You ever heard of a band called Angry Samoans?
Yeah. Main band.
I've been trying to like
a good hardcore band.
Yeah, I'm trying to cop some of their shit, eh? Like, but
I remember when I first heard them, my friend Simon played them to me. He's like an old neighbor, and he played in like a hardcore band. He's like, "Have you heard this band? It's called like Angry Samoans," and just played like, "Fuck!" Like, this is mean. Like, what an aggressive lit band, you know? Like, but also really good. And I grew up listening to that. Like, my dad was really into kind of like rock music. My grandfather was really into like 60s R&B, like the Beatles and the Who and those kind of bands. So I kind of grew up as a melting pot, you know. It's like everything. And then my mum really likes like reggae and like lots of Bob Marley and UB40, and then like classic shit like Hall & Oates. So I kind of like it, you know, kind of like everything. And then probably in the last 10 years, I've really kind of like understood hip hop a lot more, and I really enjoy it. Like it's probably 90% of what I listen to now is like Freddie Gibbs or
Oh wow.
like anything Alchemist does. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like yeah, everything. I don't dislike much, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. Like if I do a DJ set or anything, it's kind of definitely got everything in it.
Yeah.
You know, like also growing up listening to like new wave, like New Order is probably my favorite band. It's funny, like I probably listen to a lot of Freddie Gibbs and a lot of New Order, so they're kind of like polar opposites, but that's what my top most played listen to stuff is, you know.
Nah, that's cool.
So
Thanks for sharing that, bro.
yeah, it's all over the place, but there's not a day goes by where I don't have music on in our house.
Yeah.
It definitely like keeps me motivated, keeps me inspired. My wife probably gets sick of the same 30 songs that I listen to all the time, but I think that if you don't enjoy music, it's hard to explain what it does for you.
It's like your Michael Jordan cards there, right? Music sometimes has that nostalgic kind of sensory experience that you remember and you're attached to, and so you're happy to listen to it 30 times in a day because man. The second thing is food, bro. What's your go-to kai? What's your it could be if you're going out in Auckland, you got a variety of spots, I suppose. Like what's a few go-to places that you enjoy, or is there like a home cooked meal that mum or nan kind of that's your jam? So you can go anywhere. It can be diverse.
There's a few.
Bro.
So for like home cooked meals, my wife's mum makes the goat lasagna.
Ooh.
Like, and like the garlic bread. I'm like, do you reckon we could just like crash for dinner if they're having lasagna? Or could you call her and let her know that we're keen to come over on Thursday because I want lasagna?
In the neighborhood.
And they live in Albany and we're in Mount Albert. Like, but you're like, we're actually just, we got a trade me pickup. Any chance there's any lasagna going? Like, her lasagna's fire. And then my stepmom, her lasagna's fire. And it was like, we went there and I was like, it's pretty good. And I had to like really be careful about what I say, not to torch my stepmom. Otherwise I'd be banned from coming over for dinner. I am obsessed with pies, as you can probably tell. Not obsessed, but I'm like, I live really close to Muzz's Pies.
Okay.
You probably see it on my story a bunch, but I rep Muzz's hard. I think their pies are great. And then there's a few other little pie spots that I like hitting up. And then the whole smash burger craze is kind of wild. And I got into that a little bit because like with going to the States, those are the kind of burgers you get over there.
Yep.
You know, like those street vendor burgers, or you go to a little dive bar and they've got like little smash cheeseburgers that are basic and really good. Like Lucky G's, Stan runs an amazing job out there. Like if you're in Auckland, I can't give you the address. It's a secret. That's what they don't like to advertise their address. And it's like, if you know, you know, and
nice.
Everybody kind of knows. And then my friend Mikey just bought a diner, or not him and his friend Shelley, purchased a diner in Dominion Road, Mount Eden, called Ralph's. And that's fire. Like straight up, if you're in Auckland, you have to check that spot out. It's really good, like great chicken, great fried chicken, great cheeseburgers, and you can get a jug of Lion Red. So it ticks all the boxes. But yeah, those are the things. Like for me, probably one of my favorite meals that I like to cook is like a roast, like big warm winter meals.
Yeah.
Always kind of chasing my grandma's cooking, you know.
Yeah. The third question, bro, is he goes like he uses like most memorable hiding you got.
Oh yeah.
Sorry to bring up that trauma.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've really.
No, it doesn't have to be a hiding. Like it's just one of those times you're like, oh shit, I fucked up.
Yeah, one of them was at school, and it was like growing up at the school in North Shore. There was lots of South Africans and lots of like Pacific Island boys, and I stuck up for my other friend who, I don't know, some other thing, and ended up in the change room and I ended up getting like choked out. But I didn't get hit, but I got like choked out just because I don't know.
You stood
was
for what you believed in.
Yeah, which in hindsight, like dumbass, I should have just like sent him up the river, bro. Later, you can get your own hiding. I'm not backing you up.
Oh man, did he
But
get you a pie after school? There, shot, bro.
nah, bro, he didn't do shit. We're not mates anymore. I think that's when you're like 14 and you think you're the man.
Yeah.
And so I was like, nah, I'm a big dude. Like, fuck this guy. Like,
Yeah.
bro, stop giving him shit. And then you're like, bang, bang. Like, oof. That was a dumb one. Actually, on my first week of third form, I got suspended for getting in a fight.
Bad
because
dude.
it was like a seventh former who, you know how, I don't know, when you're at school, you have like the seventh formers look after the third formers?
Yeah, well, it's supposed to. Yeah.
Supposed to. And
Yeah.
then there was a guy in my class and we were supposedly friends. And he was like, you guys should just fight, bro. Like, it will be mean. And I was like, nah. And then the guy in my year just like came swinging at me and I ducked and he punched the pole and broke his wrist.
Oh.
Like the like metal poles that hold the like corridors.
Yeah.
He punched one of those and broke his hand and then ratted me out that I had broke his wrist. And so my nana like picked me up. Because I live with my grandparents, like going to college. Yeah, I got suspended like first week of third form and my nana was like, you don't fight. Like you're not in your nature. Like, I don't know. I try and avoid confrontation where I can, especially being like a big dude. Like you might know if you're out at a bar, it definitely
You stick out, eh?
finds you.
Yeah.
Like I won't stand for someone like picking on anybody, but also being a big dude. If you try and jump in, it can be more antagonizing.
Yeah, yeah.
Man,
your credibility in third form must have went up tenfold, bro.
Kind of, but it wasn't worth the growling that I got at home. Like you can be the man at school, but also like when you're home, you're still just like the boy that has to do the dishes, has to mow the lawn, and you got like your. I think my PlayStation was. I don't even know. I got growling.
That's the worst thing when they take away your PlayStation and shit like that. I'd rather get a hiding.
Yeah, I actually remember finessing them one time hard out. Because you know how on the PlayStation 1 they've got like the 2-prong power plug?
Yep.
My bed light lamp had the same cord. So I was like, you're grounded, take the cord. And you're like, oh, good. I've got another one. And then like come in and like I remember my nana like busting the door open and I'm like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater like da, 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 da. She's like, nah, give me that. Took the whole console. Fuck. Okay. Like another 2 weeks on already, 2 weeks. Whole month. School holidays, nothing.
Add on to those weeks now, boy. Oh man, that's crack up. Barry, you talked about being a huge Warriors fan, bro. And I don't want to bring up further trauma for you.
Nah, it's all good. Like this is pretty tough skin like an armadillo. I can take it. Sometimes I can't, but
I don't care about championships.
Yeah.
I just love the footy, like watching footy, and I love watching when Warriors play Warriors footy.
Yeah. And like I actually I don't know if this will work, but I'll show you here. This is in my room. So this top jersey, that was the one I had when I was 6 years old. That's the same jersey. And yeah,
that is cool, bro.
So I didn't know. I thought that jersey was gone. Like I'm wearing it in like a school photo or whatever. And that jersey was like I wore it all the time. Like it's brown on the sleeves. Like I thrashed it. But I got taken to a game when I would have been like six or seven. So it would have been like 95 or 96. And just like loving that jersey. And we sat on this like the grass bank and with my dad, and it was super sick. And I can't say that was the day that like made me a Warriors fan. I just remember the day. And like, at 6 years old, you can't. I don't know. It was just a mean day out with my dad, And my uncle must have taken that jersey, and then he passed away like 4 years ago, I think now. And then when we were like going through his house or like his room, that was like in his bottom drawer. He had like saved it from wherever, and he had just kept it. And I was like, didn't really know he had kept it, didn't know why, but so I was pretty stoked to get that jersey back.
Oh, nice.
And like it's probably one of my most prized possessions. But probably from like, so that first grand final run, I would have been old enough to understand rugby league. And growing up, my mum's dad was like a big Auckland rugby fan. So I grew up going to like all the Auckland NPC games, all the Blues games, like huge rugby fan, like growing up. And then I would have been, 11 or 12. And I just started to figure out like the difference between the two. Well, not the difference, but
Yeah.
I remember watching League and being like, this is the game for me. Like, bro, Stacey Jones, what a gun. Like those, I had like probably 3 idols would have been like Michael Jordan, Stacey Jones, and Alan Shearer, like the Newcastle centre forward. And they're like superheroes growing up. And being like, this little guy, Stacey Jones, like, look how mean he is. Like, he is the gun. He's not scared of anyone. He's getting smashed. And then as soon as I was old enough and I could afford it, I started buying season tickets with my 2 friends, Benny and Callum. And so like rain or shine, we'd go to Mount Smart. And one thing that you can't really explain to people that don't like the Warriors is the mana when you go to Mount Smart. Like, when you go there and you're sitting with like the same family that you've sat with for the last 4 years, and you've seen their like boyfriends come and go, but they're like core of that, the boyfriends or girlfriends come and go, whatever, that core family is always on those seats beside us. And you become like, you see them on a Sunday and it's just like seeing your family, and it's like they'll bring baked like cookies along and we'll all eat a cookie, and then the game starts and I'm like, fuck you, fucking like blowing up, absolutely like, fuck, shit haircut touchy, like fuck you dog, like going off, like that was a forward pass, like losing it. And then at the end of the game, you're all like, give each other a hug and we're like, see you next week. Like that's the hardest thing I think being a Warriors fan currently is not getting those games at Mount Smart.
I bet. Heck yeah.
But like, you asked my wife, like when we re-signed Sean Johnson, it was like out of the blue, and I like looked at it and I cried, like there was like a tear in my eye. I was like, Jules, look what's happened. I was so gutted when it happened. Like when he left the first time and then he came back, like I was so angry at the club when they let him go. I was like, bro, this is like the gun. Like this is the biggest superstar we've had at this club. Like he's beaten Stacey Jones like points record. Bro, he's got the maddest step you've ever seen other than Benji. And we just like shat on him and we're like, see ya. And you're like, what is going on? And then you're like, get no finals footy, and all your mates kind of give you a bit of shit. They're like, oh, you support those guys? Like, bro, it's not even about winning. It's like the culture that I like, being a Pakeha from the North Shore, but going to Mount Smart and you're like, it's in the heart of an industrial area in Penrose. No, it doesn't matter where you're from or how much money you've got or anything. Everybody that you sit around is your family.
Yeah, that's
and
cool,
that's
man.
like,
it's way deeper than competition, eh?
100%. And I think that's why I get so fired up about them, is because it's like, I know those people are the same as me. Like if you're a Warriors fan, that's the kind of person you are. You're not like, I'm a Warriors fan because they're actually lit and we win in comps, well, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of funny. Like the 3 teams I support like hard out, like Suns, Warriors, and Newcastle. And the 3 of them are, well, other than the Suns last year getting to the finals, they've been shit for years. Like, I could literally pick another team and like have success and be like, yeah, we on, like we're going to Champions League football, we got finals rugby league, or we're going to the anything. And you're like, nah, I'd rather just be sad, lonely boy because my teams aren't winning, but at least I know in myself that those teams like all have heart, like Newcastle, we just got like a big Saudi buyout, so they've become the richest club in the world.
Wow.
And it happened like overnight, and I'm like kind of unsure how I feel about it, because it's sick. It will be sick to not be shit, but also like it will feel quite weird to me because we've never had success since I followed them.
Yeah, is that how we want to build this team and this franchise kind of thing?
Unfortunately with football, it's like the more money you have, the better you are.
That's how you do it, eh?
Yeah, whereas like rugby league, you have a salary cap, and like every team, you have to like grow players through the clubs and through the things, and like it comes down to like down to the coach and like the mental side of it. There's a lot more to rugby league than being like the richest club in the NRL. So that's why I think rugby league is like the perfect sport.
Bro, you're the second guest to come on here and say that, and I don't want to shit on Union, but I want to shit on union.
Yeah.
I can't stand it, eh? I've never played union, other than like when I was maybe 10. Never played union, bro.
Yeah.
Ever. And because I just can't stand it. I can't stand the rules. I can't stand the positions. I think, whereas rugby league, on the other hand, like you get a prop in rugby league and you put them next to a prop in rugby union and you put them in like Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm going to put money on the league prop because he's
Yeah.
going to be a little bit more skillful and athletic.
Yeah.
And not saying that.
We're going to cop some hate, eh?
Yeah,
I agree.
You know what? I don't care. But like, maybe not a great example, but skill wise, it's not uncommon to see a prop in rugby league take conversion kicks, for example.
Yeah, 100%.
Hardly see that in union.
And it's like kind of common. You watch, like, not many union players make the jump to league and are successful. You look at like Nana Lamape came from the Warriors straight to the Canes. But that guy is a gun. Like, he got rolled not going to the last World Cup.
Yep.
And
he cracked ABs, bro. Enough said.
Like straight away. But then got rolled not going to the World Cup, and that's like that's the carrot. And I'm like, I wonder how Roger's gonna go. You know, like Tuivasa-Sheck. Like, a fullback in league is so different from a fullback in union. Like, bro, that guy's running 300 meters every week, making like goal-saving tackles. And like doing hit-ups. Like, the work that he puts in as a fullback in league is crazy compared to what he would do in union.
Yeah,
I feel like union is like catch and kick, but I could be completely wrong, and I don't understand union. But I watched a lot of union growing up. But the difference in terms of like I think you have to be. Rugby is a very finicky game. I think it takes a lot to be really good at it, and I think that's why the All Blacks have been really good at it, is because they've just mastered like playing to the absolute limit of the law, and being good at it.
Yeah. Who would be a rugby union player that you think would make the transition real well? I can only off the bat I can remember thinking Piriwipu would be great.
Yeah, Pity would have been mean. Imagine him and Isaac Luke, like they're like the same kind of player.
Yeah.
Like nuggety, like just real mean, and like in their heyday, like pretty quick as well.
Yeah. What do you think about Quade Cooper?
He's pretty like wild. I'm stoked that he's come back.
Great for the game.
Yeah. He was actually in my DMs trying to buy hats off me, and he was like, I want to buy like 15 hats, and I was like, I can't really sell you 15 hats. Like, that's all my inventory. Like, I don't really have enough. And he was like, all good, let me know when you can. And I just never replied. And I was like so shook that he was in my DMs. I thought it was like a troll. I was like, fuck. Like, yeah, I actually, recounting that makes me feel like an asshole. But
I feel like I feel like he could play anything. He's one of those type of players, like Sonny kind of player.
I think like I never really liked Sonny Bill. Weirdly, I don't.
You're
really
living in his hometown, lad.
I know. I don't really know why. I think just because there was such a hype around him.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah,
and it was just like guaranteed that he made the All Blacks, and like he took maybe some spots off some other people that had actually like put in the work to be there, and then he's just like superstar, came in, got the spot, and then only came off the bench and did like a few things. But
that hype about him, man.
Yeah, in saying that, watching him make the All Blacks be able to offload is like outrageous. Like, they weren't an offloading team until he came in first time. You know, like that's a fact. Like, he made those players better around him with his like professionalism and like how good he was. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, I don't dislike him, but I just am like a bit overhearing like Sonny Bill's a boxer, Sonny Bill's a league player, Sonny Bill's a this and a that. But now he's retired and you hear him speak, you're like, bro, this guy is the man. Like, you know, he's so well spoken, and imagine like having that pressure on you every day. Like, even for him to be like, I'm Muslim, in a time where like it's not hectic to be a Muslim, but he knows what he believes in and he's stuck by that, and he's like making people around him better, you know, by being that. And like, you know, remember when he like covered up the bank sponsor on his jersey and people like lost the plot over it? Like he hasn't been afraid to be who he is. And I respect that like big time. Yeah. And that's like something that a lot of athletes don't do. They're just like, cash cow, let's go.
Yeah.
Whereas he's like, I'll take the big money, but I'll also do what's right for me and my family and my friends. And everyone knows it, you know, so that's cool.
I always enjoyed his I prefer on-field Sonny, especially when he was at the Doggies.
Yeah, bro.
Bro.
Madness when that time when he's at the Doggies. Like,
if he's not an immortal, bro, I don't know, because he's won 2 grand finals, 2 different teams, 2 different eras.
Yeah.
Like, if he's not an immortal,
that Bulldogs one is like crazy because that was like that's Steve Price and that team, right?
Yeah. Steve
and
Price,
JT.
JT was on the bench.
Yeah.
They had Roy Asatasi.
Yeah.
Rennie Maitua. Shit, I forget the other guys. They had a big prop there.
That team,
Al Masri.
Yeah, bro, Al Masri, like what a gun.
Matt Utai.
Yeah, I was gonna say Utai. Yeah, that team.
Oh, Braithen Nesta, was Braithen Nesta there?
Yeah. Like that team should have stayed together for longer. You know, they could have.
Shit, Willie Mason.
Yeah. But I remember going to a Kiwis game, and it was that one at Mount Smart where they just had like a huge punch up, like Willie Mason, in the corner, and I was right by there, and my dad's down there being like, smash him, and then also being like a kid being like, yeah, fuck him up. Like I just remember like Willie Mason getting a hiding, that him and Matt King was the other one, like full.
Oh, when Manu freaking, oh, bro, I was like, dude. This is Manu Vative, bro. This is the big Shiana, bro.
Yeah.
Come on, dude. So it's sad to hear what's happened recently there on the big fella.
I love Manu. Like you can probably see there's like a Manu cutout, like a life-size cutout.
Yeah. I
have in my house that I don't know. I mean, I respect him for his league abilities, and that's it. It's just a shame that. Yeah, you could be swayed into a situation like that.
Yeah,
maybe not swayed, but
Sonny's book's come out, has it?
I'm not sure. Also, here's a funny one. I don't read. I can't really read. So,
by choice or bit of dyslexia?
Bit of dyslexia, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like a funny thing. Like my wife's huge into like reads books all the time.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason I didn't really like school. It's like reading and writing. Wasn't good at it. Didn't really know how to do it. And in the 90s, there was that huge like ADD thing where you were like, if you couldn't read or write, they were like, you're ADD.
Yeah.
And you're like, probably a little bit.
I just started throwing that around here, there, and everywhere.
Bro, it was wild. Like, I think at one point there was like 6 of my friends in our classroom were all on like
Ritalin,
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just like easy way to like, rather than putting in extra time and stuff into kids that were struggling, that was how it happened. And I think that's part of the reason as I've got older that I've become like fascinated with more like things that I can like physically understand, like clothing and hats. Like that's a big one for me. Is I've managed to kind of like find the things that I was scared, or probably I was probably like a little bit scared to like get into reading and writing at school because I didn't know how to do it that well. And so when you start being like, wow, this is a hat from 1993 as opposed to a hat from 1995, they look identical, but there's like this and this is like a little bit different. And you're like, fuck, I've learned that. I've become like, I've upskilled in a way that I didn't really know. And it's the same, like I left school at 16 and became like a bicycle. My dad was like, you need to get a job. He's a tradesman. And I was like, I don't want to be a plumber. Like, no way. Hindsight now, I'm like, fuck, it would have been me being like, but like my granddad was a plumber, my dad was a plumber, and he was like, you can be a plumber if you want. And like going to do plumbing with my dad in the school holidays, and like didn't dislike it like at all, but it was just kind of like, let's do something else, you know. And then he got me a job working in a bike shop. Me and him went to mountain biking, and I got working in a job in a bike shop, just like sweeping the floor, like little grom, but it was like full-time job, earning like, I think it would have been like $9.50 an hour.
big time.
Yeah, like 16. All my friends are like 7th form, and I'm 16, and I got $350 a week. And you're like, wow, this is lit. Like, I'm gonna buy this thing. I can buy this thing. Yeah. stupidly didn't save anything.
Yeah.
But then like I did that for 12 years. So that first part-time job, just full-time job, ended up just doing it until I was making enough money doing this that I can take a risk. Like, let's actually do something that I love. Because I'd gone from working in like bike shops to being like a salesperson in a bike shop, to then being like a bicycle mechanic, and then to like working in the warehousing for a wholesaler in the bicycle industry. And then from there got put into like working in the office role. So I was doing like stock management and like processing orders and stuff like that. And then I did that for that last part for like 5 years, and it taught me like how to kind of navigate my way around the internet a lot. And then Instagram came out, and I'd sit at my desk, like if any of my old workmates watch this, they'll be like, fuck you. Basically, like straight up like sit at my desk on my phone and like browse eBay and buy hats, browse Trade Me, like constantly buying stuff and just using like their Wi-Fi, and just probably this is terrible, but I was straight up like in the last year I was like didn't really enjoy that job at all. It was like not the great place to work, and so I was just like slowly squirreling like my business on the side, like trying to build it up, and then I got like a warning for being on my phone all the time, and then I got called into the office, and he's like, look, like into like the meeting room, it was like, look, you're on your phone too much, like you're going to the toilet 10 times a day, and you're like on the toilet like doing Percy's shit. And they got to the point where he like pulled me aside, and I was like, actually, like, here's my notice, thank you for having me, like I appreciate everything, but this is like not for me. I can't go anywhere, I can't do anything. And then it's like, this is 2019, end of 2019, and I was using all my annual leave. Me and Jules would go to America and buy stock and bring it back. We were doing that a couple of times a year. And then we were like, me in 2019, leave that job, like we're going to go away in March 2020, we'll go to the States and set up some contacts so we can like really get this thing going, because I'd love to open a shop. Like that's my end goal, is to like open a shop. But obviously like the pandemic happened or whatever, like COVID, and so then you have to just straight adapt. And you're like, yeah, it's kind of funny like getting a call back from my boss last year and COVID being like, would you want to come back? And you're like, nah bro, I'd rather be like have less money but be happy in my day.
Yeah, for real.
Like it's that work-life balance now is like really good. It's like much better, and I've got like a bigger appreciation for kind of money as well when those things happen.
You think I think there would have been a natural like transferable skills, right, coming from that industry into your own business.
Yeah,
it definitely helped you out a bit.
I think so. It definitely,
because there's still shitloads to learn, right, as you go.
Oh, crazy. Even stuff like how to do your taxes. Like, no, that's what they should teach kids at school, is like how to save money, how to do taxes, and like actually how to run your little business. Like that would be the most, if someone had tried to teach me at school, I probably wouldn't have listened. But in hindsight, they would have been like, if you can like set up your little business, you set up a little bank account, this is how you like do your taxes. Those are all things that no one teaches you until you're like, fuck, I have to pay taxes. Like not pay taxes, but like do a tax return. Like that's where my wife is like the biggest savior, because it's like I look at it and I'm just like, this is all just a mess of numbers and I can't navigate through it, where she's like got the patience and the time to like work through it, and I'm like trying to help her and like try and learn a little bit, but it's like my brain is like, I can tell you every sports specialties model there is, or
well, it doesn't interest you, eh? So why
nah.
That's my problem. If I don't find any interest in it whatsoever, I'm not going to bother.
Yeah,
no thank you. But I mean, to a certain degree, if it's your livelihood is on the line, then maybe I'll give a shit.
Yeah, 100%. But like, I think, some of my friends like straight out of school and they're like accountants, or they've gone to university for like 6 years straight out of school, and you're like, bruh, we're like different humans.
I think we have a lot in common, bro. I think my education I put down to is movies and music.
Yeah.
A lot of what I know in terms of general knowledge has come from rappers.
Yeah.
Spitting game, and I'm like, what did he say? What does that mean? What is he talking about? Then I'm going down this rabbit hole, like looking, that's what he means. That's what he's referring to. That's the reference. That's the metaphor he's using.
Yeah.
I'm learning about pronouns and nouns and adjectives through rap,
Yeah.
not
You
through
know what?
school. Like
Yeah.
I'm learning about I'm big on Goonies, bro. You love a good Goonies watch every now and then.
I haven't seen it.
All right, we're gonna end the podcast here, guys.
There's a few like
Come
that.
on, bruv. What the
I
hell?
know. I don't know why. I actually don't know why. Like I don't know why I
You
haven't
know
seen it.
what? I had Retro Mania on the other day. He
Yeah.
hasn't watched Star Wars.
Yeah. So my wife's never watched Star Wars. So I grew up like
Okay.
my dad was like massive into Star Wars. Like not hasn't got toys and shit, but like I remember he said when the first movies came out, he was like 7. So he was like, I was this age, and then I would have been 10 when like the Phantom Menace came out. So it's kind of wild. And now my little brother, who's 14, when the new ones came out, he was the same age. So there's been like my dad, me, and now my little brother and sister have all had like a new Star Wars trilogy come out.
Wow.
In their like in that prime learning age of like this is cool. My brother is Star Wars obsessed.
Yeah.
Like every Christmas, every birthday is like Star Wars Lego. I'm like, bro, you're 14 now. Like, will you like grow out of it? But I don't think so. Like,
Nah.
He's gonna be a computer programmer or some shit like that.
Dope.
My little brother is a genius.
Dope.
And it's mean because he's quite insular and like quite quiet. But you know that his like little brain's ticking away, and he's just like gonna be. Yeah, I can tell. I gotta push him a little bit.
That's
but
dope.
like,
You learn so much like about history as well, like just through movies, like Schindler's List. I learned a lot about the war, like World Wars.
Even I remember watching like Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan, all of that stuff. Shawshank Redemption. I learned about things around it. Like I was wondering what he was doing, why he would keep going to the warden's office, and he was doing his taxes, I suppose. And and then he started filtering money elsewhere to an offshore bank account. Like I learned all of that shit through movies. Like
there's so much stuff like that you pick up on. Like what was I watching recently? I like now if I'm watching stuff, actually it's like I always watch documentaries. That's the best way I can take stuff in and I can learn about stuff.
Absolutely.
Is documentaries. And I'd rather watch a documentary than like a James Bond film, as much as I grew up watching all the James Bond films. But like any sport, like any of those ESPN 30 for 30s, like I'll watch those because you're like, I didn't know about this. This is crazy. Or there's some that are just on Netflix at the moment called like Bad Sport.
Okay, I'll check those out.
And there's one about the like Hansi Cronje, the cricketer, the South African cricketer, who was like spot fixing.
Oh wow!
In the games, but the interesting thing about that I was just learning, like I just learned, was like in apartheid South Africa, they were banned from playing any sport. They weren't allowed to have any professional sports team. No country would let them compete. So like when Nelson Mandela got out of jail, he had like that was just at that period of time where when he came into being the president or prime minister of South Africa, they started letting international sports compete. And Hansi Cronje was the first captain of the cricket team, and they toured Australia. And so it was kind of wild, like his story about how he was this first captain of the cricket team, and then he ended up like South Africa loved him because he had like formed a bond with Nelson Mandela, and this then had been swayed into like match fixing. It was like very like hectic and really sad, like really sad. Like the story of like how he had been infiltrated to like spot fix basically. And he was like such a wholesome dude, and then it turned out like the two people he got on side with him to spot fix were like the people of color in the team, like Jonty Rhodes and one other player. And so he looked like a bigger piece of shit for the only two people he got on board were like the people of color in their team. So it was just like it's like way deeper in like the politics around that. Like I didn't know any of that stuff. Like I knew about him getting done for match fixing, but it goes way deeper than that. And like learning about like the politics of South Africa, and then you go back to like the Springboks test, and like it all kind of ties in, and you're like, fuck, it's all things that I didn't know that I've just learned from this documentary.
There it is.
Yeah.
It's awesome, eh? I love that about the thrift shop as well.
Yeah.
Like going into the op and then you're looking at some, like I was telling Josiah about Crown Lynn stuff. I had no clue
Yeah.
what it was, and then you learn all this stuff, and then I learned that my grandmother's sister worked in Crown Lynn, her like most of her adult life in New Lynn.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's cool. I didn't realize, I didn't know that. And she started sharing, going down this road. And so I love going in the op shops and just finding real obscure or stuff that just kind of catches your eye, and you're like
Yeah.
looking at it for ages, and then you pull the phone out. What is this?
Yeah. That's like, I mean, I heard that, like Josiah saying, like his parents would like he would like learn things as a kid and then go into like the garage sales and stuff. And
Man.
he already had like a big leg up on everyone as like a kid, because he had just been like immersed in that, like in that world. And that was like, learning stuff, like, going to op shops and like, this looks interesting. Like, I wonder what this is. And then you end up like Googling, you're like, whoa, this is this crazy thing. You end up buying it. And then you're like, what am I actually going to do with this thing? I have a whole house full of these interesting things that don't necessarily have like a big monetary value, but you're like, bruh, I'm like looking around my house like,
Bro,
I've got some weird
bro.
shit in.
In saying that, bro, let's take a look, bro. We got some weird stuff.
Yeah, like
I've got, what have I got?
Oh, bro, like this is like a Championship Manager 3 for PC. I remember like wanting this game as a kid, and I found one like new in the box basically at an op shop. I'm like, it's still got like the disc and everything in it.
Like floppy disk?
No, like a CD, like a CD.
Okay.
It's like new in the box, and I was like, why did I
get it?
And my wife's like, don't, you're just gonna end up like having more shit around that's just gonna annoy you. And you're like, well, nah, because I remember wanting that as a kid and I couldn't have it, so now I've got it. There's all sorts, like this whole, I don't know, I can give you a quick little tour. It's a bit messy at the moment, but this is like the hat wall, and then there's like some.
Oh, check out that poster! Whoa, look at those top hats, dope.
Yeah, so then it's like one rack of clothes, some like all Warriors posters,
love,
and then like a little Penny Hardaway thing.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, and then there's like big Magic Johnson, a couple of Warriors stuff, and then this side is like 2 racks, bunch more stuff.
Is it like Steinlager too?
No, it's like a Louis Vuitton.
Oh wow!
Sailing. I found that at like an op shop as well. Just like, pretty much everything in this house is just kind of stuff I've collected and thrifted. It's a bit messy, but it's mostly just things that I'm pretty stoked to find. And eventually, if I open a shop, like, I think that would be the end goal. Like, open a shop and just have a space where you walk into, and it just has like a big nostalgia hit. It's not about like,
it's a museum, right? Like you're walking into a museum.
But then also like I get annoyed when I walk in and I'm like, fuck, I've always wanted that thing. And then you're like, is that for sale? And they're like, nah. Is this for sale? Nah. Are those Space Jam Michael Jordan toys for sale? Nah, sorry, not for sale. And then you end up selling nothing, and everyone's like, bro, that guy's an eater. It's like, yeah, the meanest shop, but nothing's for sale. But I think that's like, I walk into some stores in the States when I've been over there, and you just walk in and you're like, they have like a whole section of like trading cards, and then you're like, I'm just drawn to it, so I'm gonna buy like 10 packs, because that's like a memory that I like have and I want to like get back. And I think like if you can walk into a store, or you walk into a space and you're like, man, I want it to feel like my bedroom when I was a kid, like I remember having a Space Jam poster on my wall and a times table poster, and I can tell you which one I looked at more. I watched that movie like 20 times. Couldn't tell you my times tables, like straight up, and that's the kind of, I don't know. I think it's like a weird like nostalgia hit that I'm desperate to go to Josiah's store. Like next time I'm down that way, I just want to walk in and I know I'll just be like, oh, sick.
Bro, hard. I'll be taking so many photos just that I'm here.
Yeah. And I get like, even Ra used to have a store in Hamilton.
Yeah.
That was a cool store.
Casabella Lane, I think.
Yeah. I remember like walking in there and like I didn't know Ra then. And just being like, well, this is pretty cool. Like someone's giving it a go, like opening a shop.
Yeah.
And like buying, I can't remember what I bought from it, but I was like, I have to buy something, Whoa, this is cool. I gotta buy something. And that's like, I don't know, now in hindsight, like, damn, I wish I like had known Ra better so I could buy, you know, like be more hyped on the like person behind the store as well.
I think that's a really cool thing about what we're trying to do on this podcast too, is to get to know the people behind the pages as well.
Yeah.
And so that you know where your money's going to and who it's going, you know, what it's going towards. Like,
Yeah.
I know that the bro Matt's going full time. This is his thing.
Yeah.
It's going to make me want to put money into it and purchase. And I said, nah, that's real cool, bro. What's I mean, you've been doing this for a few years, thrifting, op shopping. Your goal is to eventually open a shop.
Yeah.
And you talked about some stuff not for sale. Where's your grails at, brother?
Oh.
You don't have to show them, but what's something that you would consider your grail? Because everyone's grail is different. Or...
Yeah, I've got a few. Like I pulled a couple out. Just
nice.
This shirt, I actually posted it recently on my Instagram. It's signed by Alan Shearer. Like I met him when he came to New Zealand on like when he retired. Yeah. He did like a speaking tour, and I was lucky enough to go with my dad and my granddad.
Oh, wicked.
And it was quite, I think it was like one of those like corporate things where it was like quite expensive to get a table, and my granddad somehow like finessed to buy tickets through his like finessed buying tickets through his like Plumbing World account or some shit. I don't know. He's like the loophole king. Straight up, bro. He's like the man. Like anything, he'd be like, I'll buy this many. Like,
we need to get him on the potty, bro.
Yeah, this many Crocs nuts, and I get an iPod, and then I'll look like the goat for giving someone an iPod for Christmas. But I know he didn't buy it. He would have just like done some.
There's a string attached there.
Yeah, bro. Like wild. Like didn't steal it, but he would have like finessed it somehow. Like sold so many things through Plumbing World to get Plumbing World points to be like, all the grandkids are getting iPods, and then he's like the man. But anyway, we got this table when like it's like me, my dad's best friend Phil, and all of our tickets were there, and they were like, there's a meet and greet at the end, but it's only odd numbers get to meet him and your ticket number. So like we were like 254, 255, 256, 257. So it was like like 255 and 257 got to meet him. And my granddad, I didn't get the number, but my granddad did. He was like, no, you go. Like, you can go and meet him.
Wow.
And I went with my dad, and he like signed my shirt, and then I took my granddad's like England jersey, and he signed that for my granddad. It was like to Roger, like Alan Shearer. And my granddad was like shook. Like he like coming from the area, he didn't get to meet him, but he was like pumped that he got to do this. And I remember like going up, bro, and like this guy I'd looked up to, like I wanted to be like wear number 9 on my jersey when I was playing soccer, like football. I wanted to like really be everything like Alan Shearer. Like he's the best striker in English football. And then getting to meet him, and he's like in his Geordie accent and shook my hand. I was like, "You're right, lad." And I just like fucking froze up as like a 17-year-old. And like shook my hand, and I just remember like that feeling like I'm never gonna wash my hand.
Yeah.
And then my dad giving me like a couple of beers because I was 17 as well, and being like, you can have a beer, like you're an adult now. And like that's a memory that I'll like cherish forever. And he signed my shirt, and like it just makes me more handies to like support that team, and like everything that was like that moment with my granddad. And yeah, it's very wild. Like it kind of got me into that football, and even more that I was already into. Like I got Newcastle kits for my birthday, like growing up from like 5 all the way through to 18. My jersey I've got for my 18th birthday is like Matt Wall 18 on the back that got sent over from my grandparents. I'm like, I'm never gonna wear this. Like I remember wearing it to football training, and the boys just roasted me. They were like, who puts their own name on the back of their jersey? Like, what a loser. Not a loser, but like, fuck this guy, yeah. Reckons he's the man. Like, yeah, having that. And then, yeah, so it's like pretty ingrained. Like I get up and watch all the games. And yeah, so that's like my ultimate, that's like my grail. And like, and I think I got to my early 20s, I was going flatting, and I kind of like, didn't really appreciate that so much. So it stayed in the bottom of my drawer, and it got moldy. And so then probably like 5 years ago, I kind of was like, fuck, I've got one of those jerseys. They're like $300 now. I was like, I've got one. It's like signed by Alan Shearer. And then you kind of like, everything comes back, and you're like, oh yeah, I actually like, I respect that more now than I probably did 10 years ago, because it means more to me now, you know, as you get older. a couple of little weird ones. This one is like one of my favorite bands, New Order. This is like an 80s paper thin, like crazy t-shirt. I got this at a garage sale. We were like just going to get some food in Sandringham. We went to a garage sale and they had like, we got there like as it started, and it turned out like Juliet's auntie knew the people that were having the garage sale.
Okay.
And we like got there and they were there and we're like, oh, hi, how's it going? I'm like looking through this, everything's like folded up and it's like Hallenstein stuff, like nothing cool. And then there was this t-shirt and I was like, whoa, like abs, like, you know when you find something and
not be expecting it
too, yeah, like... not to be expecting it, and you get that feeling, and I don't really know how to explain it, and it's like an adrenaline rush,
yeah, the endorphins,
and your hairs stand up, and it's like an audible gasp where you're like, oh. And then I was like, how much is this? And he's like, bruh, that's like a shitty rag, like you don't want that. Why would you want that? What is gonna fit you? And then I was like, it's one of my favorite bands. Like I would love to buy it. And he was like, I don't know, bro, like 50, like, I don't know, mate, like 50 cents. And I was like, all good. Like, and then like just getting it and then sitting in the car and like putting it over the steering wheel and like taking a photo and just like being so shook that this was a dude's painting rag. Like, and it's,
he would have cut that up 4 rags afterwards. Like,
that's another crazy thing is like my dad being a plumber, all of his t-shirts when he gets there like too worn, hacks them into rags.
Damn.
And like he had like so many Mambo t-shirts, so many No Fair t-shirts.
Wow.
Heaps of like vintage football jerseys that he just like chopped them all up into rags. And you're like, I can't even, like that's so crazy. But again, like if you don't understand, like that's an old t-shirt. And that's like one thing that's really hard to explain to someone. Like at this guy, when I was like, I'm a big New Order fan, like I really like that band, this t-shirt is like crazy to me. He's like, that's a painting rag for me, like I don't care at all about that. And like it doesn't even matter what that t-shirt's worth because I'll never sell it. Like that's a wild one.
Hard out.
And it's like another crazy one is obviously like before New Order there was a band called Joy Division, and then their singer commit suicide, and so they kind of reformed and became New Order, same members, but they were kind of like more electronic than kind of like a gothy kind of band. Not goth, I don't really know how to explain them. But Juliet's dad I have it in like my vault box, is he has a Joy Division t-shirt from when he was a teenager. And so I have both of them. We have them both, like his t-shirt from when he was a teenager, and then it's like exactly the same size, paper thin but gray, and it's like a Joy Division one. So you're like, whoa. Like I will actually post them on our Instagram so people can see, but it's crazy that both of those t-shirts have just kind of like found their way to bands that we love.
And it happens to be your wife's dad's. Like that's cool, man. Like,
and I'm stoked that she saved that when he was like sorting out his stuff. Like, yeah, Jules has like a wild t-shirt collection, like better than mine. Like, she fits that dream like large XL if it's oversized like fit.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
you got a few kisses before the L.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah,
I got quite a few kisses before the L.
Yeah, she's like, oh man. Her t-shirt collection's mad, and heaps of times I'm like, nah, you should keep this, like, but really I'm making her keep it through me because I don't want to sell it. But it's pretty awesome. Like I always say, like I always have said to Jules, like if we ever were desperate, if we'd ever like need to, like I have a big collection of hats, but if we were ever desperate, anything, I'd sell everything, you know. You do what you can. Like we've got a kid on the way in January.
Oh, congrats, bro.
Our first one, little girl. And so just been like sold off a few little bits to like help pay for some things. And you're like, not only have my like not hoarding, but like my obsession with like collecting stuff, it's become a time where there's actually like a value in those things that you love. That like hats are like, obviously this t-shirt I would never sell because it means too much and I'll never find another one. But like, I don't know, any of those I can, if I looked hard enough, I could find another one. And that's like, I always said to Jules, like, if there was ever anything you can you can sell my hats to like to
Oh,
help
good
pay
man.
for shit.
Good man.
But
Speaking of
it's kind
hats, sorry, bro.
yeah, well, good. No, you go.
Oh, that's the thing. Speaking of hats, bro, what do you got a fave or you kind of not too fast? It's a
Hat,
hard question, eh?
hats are like I don't know everything. Like I think maybe
You,
I said it. I
you
said
feel
it
naked
off.
without it?
Yeah, I remember like growing up wearing hats constantly, and my
Yeah.
granddad being like, "You're gonna go bald if you wear a hat too much," like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And so I've always had hats, always tried to wear hats, like always worn hats, kind of like growing up. And then as soon as I kind of like discovered vintage hats, that was like huge door, like Pandora's box had opened for me, and I just started being like, I need to have everything, but I just need to find like one of each of these variations of the different brands so I can like learn more about them. Like my headwear page never started to be a hat only page. Like, well, it did, but like I never set out to be like the hat page in New Zealand or whatever. It was like I like hats. I'm gonna buy some hats and I'll keep the ones I want, and then I'll sell the rest to pay for the hats that I want.
Mm.
And I don't want to fill the Percy's page with hats because that's kind of like people want to buy t-shirts off us or jerseys or whatever. I was like, well, Instagram's cool. You can have multiple accounts. Like I remember being like exactly the day, December 15th, like sitting in the lunchroom in my old work. And I was like, bro, I'm going to start a hat page today. And like, he was like, my workmate was like, what are you going to call it? I was like, Percy's Headwear. And then I just like lame name, whatever. But like, it kind of solidified that people thought I was Percy because it was like Percy's Headwear.
Mm.
And so I started that page, and then unbeknown to me, no one else, there wasn't any other hat pages in New Zealand at the time. And that was like 2018, 2017. And it was just coming from selling off the hats that I didn't want. And then the more I learned, the more I got into it, and the more I needed to find other hats. And then you find out that some hats are like one of one. So there's only been one ever discovered.
Wow.
And you're like, how is this even possible? Like one of one. Like in a world where there's like, even in the 90s, so much stuff was produced. How has nobody ever seen another one of those? Like that is mind blowing to me. And it can happen. And like now the hat community in New Zealand is popping off, and it's absolutely wild that everyone has like amazing collections. Like the hats that are in New Zealand, I talk to collectors from the States and they're like, New Zealanders cornered a whole bunch of great hats down there and they're not letting them go. It's wild.
Big time.
Yeah.
Not even hats there, a lot of stuff, eh?
Yeah. And like for a small country,
Bro,
the amount
isolated.
of heat that is down here,
bro,
is outrageous.
The crazy thing to me is just the stories behind how they would have got here.
Yeah.
Because we're surrounded by water. You had to fly that shit and it'll come in on boat. Like,
yeah. I was talking to my barber, one of his customers. He was like, I need some money to buy a dog. I'm gonna sell off some of my starter jacket collection. And Dan like hit me up and he was like, bro, have I got a deal for you? Every time I get my haircut at Dan's, I end up like buying some shit off him. Whether it's like a Super Nintendo or like some customer of his has got some hats anyway. Like one of his mates selling off some starter jackets. And I was like, I'll talk to Jules, like all good. And then like 3 hours later, bro, he's wheeling in a rack into my house. And he's like, I don't know what he wants. Just have a look at them and then let me know. And there was like a rack of grails that he just like rolled into my house. And I was like, fuck, I don't even know if we can afford these. Like there's like, it's like my like heaven. It was like an asshole as well. When I bought them, I went through eBay and I found like sold listings and then what I could sell them for. And then I like did a spreadsheet for him. So when he came over, I was like, I always like to be extreme, as fair as I can be when I'm buying stuff off people, because you don't want to be the guy that's like, bro, this is only worth $5. And then they see you selling it for 300.
yeah.
And then you look like a dick. Like I would rather pay someone more so that they're happy with the transaction and I make a little bit less, as long as I can make a little bit to pay rent. But sometimes it's worth just buying it just so you can have it. You can have it. You've never seen it before. You want to look at it. You want to like really kind of like fall in love with the garment. So anyway, I bought all these. Sorry, I got sidetracked. I bought all those jackets off him. He came over And he was like, well, you think these are cool? Like, my brother collects hats. And I was like, fuck off. Like, here we go. And so anyway, this guy, like, he collected starter jackets, and he bought them all from a catalog. Like, he was buying them out of a catalog. And then he was like sending the money to America, like via check. And then they'd send him the jackets, like out of East Bay magazines, like old East Bay catalogs.
Yeah.
And you're like, that is so much legwork to buy your collection. Like, nowadays, you know, you've got everything at your fingertips, and if it takes 3 days to get here, people get shitty. You know, it's kind of like we've lost that patience for things, because everything is like right there. You can get a DM at 11 o'clock at night, and for the most part, people will reply. Whereas before, you'd be like, I'm sending off $100, and then I'll wait 2 months, and my jacket will come, and that's all good. You're not on the phone to East Bay being like, where's my fucking jackets? Like, everyone back then was like more chill about stuff. But yeah, his brother like showed me a video of his room, and he's like, that Raiders, like that, the Raiders script that was like NWA hat, like the goat hat. I guess it's kind of like the most common grail. He's got like 4 of them and 3 with tags. And you're like, are you kidding? Like, that's my dream right there. And you've got 4 of them. And he was like, oh, I probably will give you, like, I can give you one if you want, like the most worn one. I'll give you one. If you want, you're like, no, I'll buy it. And like, yeah, I still need to like suss them out for that. But like, there's people out there that collected shit in the 90s and were like super hyped on it. And they like haven't thought about people collecting them again now. You know, it's just kind of like they collected it then. That's what they still have. They don't realize that it's grown from that. And now I could probably get that guy with the tags on his hat, probably like $700 or $800 for it. And he paid like $2.99 when Sterling Sports was going out of business, or like the one in his area, like when they were changing to like New Era hats, all the sports specialties ones kind of got put in a sale bin, and then nobody thinks that that's going to be worth anything. So it's kind of like hats are pretty nuts. Like, I don't know, I'm going on a tangent, but
nah, it's cool, bro. Look, because you brought up a good thing too. Like, there are people out there in New Zealand too who aren't in the community.
Yeah.
Who aren't on Instagram, but they're sitting on a dope collection.
Yeah, and I don't really like to try and find those people and to buy their collections, because I don't know if I can do it justice, because it probably means more to them.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like I don't really like the term reseller, but I guess that's what we are. If we're buying shit from an op shop and we're reselling it for a profit, like, yeah, we are resellers. But I think for me, at the end of the day, like, it's all stuff that I wanted as a kid and I couldn't have, like going right back to the square one. Like, it's all stuff that I wanted as a kid and I couldn't get. And it's made me, now I can afford it and I have got access to it and I've learned more about it, that I can get it. And then I would like to put those things in touch with other like-minded people that also wanted those things as a kid. And now I can facilitate, you know, you see someone that had a Lakers jacket and they've always wanted a Lakers jacket. And you're like, bro, I've got one of those. Like, yeah, right, easy. You know, it's kind of like being that facilitator to get people the things. And like, even now I talk to people that I've sold hats to, and he was like, people were just like, fuck, I had that hat as a kid. Like, I can't believe you found me another one. Like, that's a wild thing that I don't really think about, but yeah, you can get like so much joy when you can source stuff for people.
Super fulfilling.
Yeah, and it's not about like the reseller thing. It's about like putting people in touch with the memories that they had as a kid. Like, that's
absolutely.
And I always tried to like price stuff what I would feel comfortable paying as well. You know, not like some shit you have to be like, bro, this is a $500 jacket. Like, that's rent. That's rent money if I can sell it for that. But for the most part, I like to try and sell stuff for what I would want to pay. You know, and especially being like a small business, if I see another small business that's got something that I want, absolutely will pay like whatever they want for it, because I know it'll slot into my collection. And like, I don't know whether you get it, but people are like, so you kind of run like an online op shop.
Yeah.
Do you get that? And you're like, yeah, kind of, but it's like a lot more curated.
Yeah.
And I work really hard to make sure everything that I sell, I love. You know, like, I'm not just going to push out 200 Harley tees because that's the trend. No no disrespect to the Harley tees, but yeah, it's not the buzz for me personally.
I'm super disrespectful to Harley tees. I'm super disrespectful to people who wear Jordans and they can't play either.
Yeah.
Like if you don't
chill out. Rain it in, eh? Fuck. Oh, see you later. Nah.
It's like if you don't own a Harley, like
yeah,
should you be wearing a Harley?
But no, it's like, yeah, I respect that. Like I actually only bought my first pair of Jordans when I was in the States.
What did you get?
Jordan 1s, all white, and I only bought them. They're all white. They're like,
it's my favorite Jordan 1s.
Yeah, and that was kind of the end. Like I bought that one pair, and they were $30 from Buffalo Exchange, and I bought the all white ones because I was like, bro, I remember like seeing like hair metal, but like in the 80s and 90s
true.
metal bands, they would wear like all white high top sneakers, and I was like, that's fucking badass. Like I'm gonna wear like my blue jeans, these white high top sneakers. Like didn't really occur to me until probably the last 3 or 4 years that there's like kind of like, I'm a size 13, so you don't see, it's harder to find sneakers now because of resellers. Like I'll enter a raffle for something, like I'm part of Bigfoot NZ, like the sneaker group, and that is like another crazy community to be part of. And that's all about like getting, if you can enter a raffle for somebody that's a 13, you'll just do that, and then you never sell it for profit. You just like always hook everybody up. That's kind of how that page works. And it's kind of amazing kind of being in that community where there's dudes in there that have got like 200 pairs of sneakers, and I've got like 2 pairs of Jordans. But no one's like, bro, that's like, you don't have to have X amount of shoes.
Yeah.
It's like all about the community, and we all like meet up and watch the Warriors. We all like rip the shit out of each other about how shit the Warriors are or how shit the Broncos are. Like a couple of lads, like Broncos fans, and it's like that camaraderie around that. And then it's all brought in by sneakers. And so I feel quite privileged to be invited into that kind of circle. And then they've like put me on with a couple of events. They've put me on with like my vintage setup, and it kind of goes hand in hand. It's like that.
That's cool.
Sneakers, hip hop, sports, like American sportswear, that all kind of intertwines. But I feel you on like the sneaker thing is like pretty wild. Like I never thought I would see the day where I would feel like upset about missing a pair at retail.
Yeah.
Which I don't really go out actively chasing pairs, but certain pairs you see and you're like, man, I'd love to own that. And you're like, $700, like fuck off. No way. Right. Do you know me? I just go to the pub. Like all I do is go to the pub and watch the Warriors like that. Or, like I can't look after a $700 pair of shoes.
Like
No way.
I feel like some of them are forcing me to become a drug dealer, eh? Just some of the products. Like, bro, I gotta sell drugs to pay for that shit. Like what the hell?
It's like insane. Like fuck. But I promised my wife that I won't be a sneakerhead. She's like, you can be a vintage. You can like collect jerseys, you can collect hats. Yeah. But like sneakers are like a bridge too far.
My first job out of high school was Foot Locker, bro.
Yeah.
So I was sneakerhead mad.
Yeah.
I had grown a collection up to maybe 50 shoes, just an assortment. There wasn't like one shoe that I only got. I got all sorts of shoes, and I wore them all. Like and then I met my partner now, and that shit changed. She was like real conservative. Like you only need one good winter jacket. You don't need 5 winter jackets. Kind of thing. Like
sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah. Like you only
you're like, why have you got 3 Carhartt jackets?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like,
bro.
You only need 1. And then, but then you can be like, I better be careful with what I say, because if I'm like, yeah, I know I only need 1 jacket, fine, I'll sell the other 2. She's like, you also only need 1 hat. So you've got to like really be careful not to put your foot in it and be like, no, honest, all good.
Yeah. So. No, I tell her like there's hats that you wear, that you everyday hats, or there's your everyday jacket, or your everyday, and then you got to have your good ones, like because I got a small hat collection, like maybe 5 or so that I just wear.
Yeah.
And like I just get a standard New York that goes with everything. So I'll get that, and I got 1 pair of Jordans, one like, but I'll have like those are for when I go out for my morning walks shoes,
Yeah,
and those are my like your church shoes or your
yeah,
your dress shoes or whatnot.
yeah. And that's like I've tried to be better. Like I was always wanted sneakers growing up, but never like Jordans. It was always like I want lots of Vans. I don't know. And then when I said, when I was at school, you'd have like one pair of Vans, and they were like your shoes for Mufti Day. And you're like, bro,
Yep.
everyone would like flex on Mufti Day or whatever.
Yeah.
But like Nikes were quite expensive. So, and like, I didn't really know about dress. Like, I don't think Dress Smart existed back then. And as soon as I started earning like money, I was living at home, and I was like, I didn't know what to spend. In hindsight, probably should have just started saving for a house. And if I started saving at 16, I still might be able to afford a house in Auckland. But I was like, I get $300 a week. I can buy a pair of Vans. They're only $100. And I spent like all my money from probably like 16 to 20 on like records. I bought like so many records. Like in my lounge, I've probably got like, those cube shelves. Like,
bro, when the baby comes, bro, something's got to go, eh?
Yeah. I went through my records, like, because we've reset up all our lounge and stuff for the baby.
Okay. Yeah.
So like I got rid of a bunch of shit. And I was like going through my records, and I was like, I could sell, like I'd happily sell a bunch of records, But that's what I was spending my money on, was like records and like some Vans. And then I've always been pretty giving. So like some of my friends at school, like when they were going to uni, I'd have like 10 pairs of shoes. So I'd be like, bro, here you go. Like they'd come over to my house, and you're like, here you go. Like always giving my friends shit. Like anytime, even my friends now come over to my house, and they're like, what have you got? And I'm always just like, help yourself. Like you can have this. Like I'd rather you look sick in this, or like this fits you, or like that's a t-shirt that you can have. Like always give stuff away to my friends when they come over. And that was like, one thing. Like as soon as I got older, I was like, man, I shouldn't probably be spending money on shoes. Like it seems ridiculous. So now when I was working, all my wages would go to my wife, and then I'd get paid like a little cheeky allowance, which was like a little bit of pub money, time for a little Turkish kebab after the pub, like that's kind of how I got better at saving. Because also, again, they don't teach you how to save at school. They just tell you like you get caught in this, like you need everything now. And when you grow up like not having everything, all you want is everything.
I like my wardrobe is definitely reflective of like my thrifting. Like a lot of my stuff is, I would say, but I'll go half. I say half of my stuff is thrifted. The other half probably people have given me, or I've actually went and bought because I probably practically have needed that. Yeah. But it's been I love my wardrobe. Like I love that lots of things are thrifted, and stuff's from the 80s, stuff's from the 90s, stuff's to Y2K, and it's really cool. Like I weirdly, so my old man Samoan, and like Islander shirts, right? Like button up shirts. It's all of a sudden become a thing for me now in my older age. I'm like looking for them now, bro. I'm like, I want to start wearing this shit. Like,
man.
Owning it, like, man, let's wear these and like a Hawaiian shirt type of things. But I love it, eh? Like it's $2.50. Awesome. Choice.
Man, that's perfect. And like I was saying to Jules, like, she was like, what do you wear? And I was like, bro, like I don't really care. Like people will probably look at my wardrobe and be like, fuck, it's full of grails, but everything I wear, like everything. You got to wear everything, like even my hats. Like some of my most expensive hats I own are absolutely thrashed because you have to wear them. There's some stuff obviously that you're like, nah, I'm not going to wear this because it's new with tags, and I would be crazy to pop the tags. But then you also have to wear your shit. Like I think that's one thing that I know why I can't be a sneakerhead is like I couldn't have 50 pairs of shoes stacked to my roof and not wear them. I'd rather have 2 pairs and like absolutely thrash them and wear them out. And then you kind of like justify, like I was like, I would like to try a pair of Yeezys. Like they look so comfortable, but I don't know if I can pay like retail like crazy. Anyway, I saw someone post up being like, got these for sale. And I was like, would you trade a hat or like 2 hats for them? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, fuck me. I can't believe I traded. And I have and then I wore them out the first time and all my mates were like, bro, what are those ugliest shoes? I got I got so roasted by the boys for it. Hard roasted from wearing Yeezys. And I was like, I just want to try them. They look so comfortable. They look like the most comfortable shoes, all knitted and spongy sole. I didn't really care if they were hype or not, but yeah, I felt quite embarrassed to have a $300 pair of shoes that I wore out and wearing them into to go to a show, and my friends fuck, you wearing those, bro? They're gonna get fucked up. I wouldn't wear them. If not, I'd tell them the price and well, they've got to be worn. I'm not gonna walk my dog in them, but I'll wear them out. I'll spill a few line reds on them if I have to.
I think too, I find a lot of stuff that doesn't fit me, but it might fit my boy.
Yeah.
So I go, oh, here, boy, you can wear this till you grow out of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's real conscious because he knows what I'm trying to do, and he's like, oh, I don't want to stain it or something. And I'm like, bro, this is vintage. This shit's gonna last, bro.
Yeah.
It's probably been worn by maybe 2-3 other people before it's gotten to you. So wear it, man. And feel cool and let it make you feel good, and do look after it, please. But yeah, I'm real. I'll happily give my kids some stuff to wear, and knowing that it's vintage, it's of quality, it's and if you can look after it, later on, Dad might be able to sell it. And
yeah, the crazy thing, do you get the question where people are like, does this how do you wash this? They'll buy a I don't know an $80 vintage t-shirt off you, and they're like, how do you wash it? And you're like, chuck it in
the wash,
whatever you want. I guarantee you it's been washed 1,000 times before.
Yeah. Hard up, man.
And it's robust and real good.
Yeah.
And
top quality.
Yeah.
The stitching on it is solid.
My dog's just come in and say hi.
Oh, wicked.
Hey Bob, what's up, man?
How's the dog owning going in the lockdown in Auckland? Is it all good?
Best thing ever for my mental health. Yeah, straight up.
Solid, bro. Good to hear.
We got stuck in Christchurch for the first month of this lockdown.
Okay.
Because we were going on a vacation down.
Actually, I remember seeing your story. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went on a little vacation. Jules' sisters just moved down there. They just built a house in Marshlands in Christchurch, and we were we'll go down for a little visit, spend a few days there. Our friends bought a house in Dunedin, so we'll go on a tiki tour, rent a car, have a nice holiday. And we literally picked up our rental car, and one of the boys messaged him and was like, bro, there's a case of a Delta case in Auckland. And we were like, fuck. And then we saw the news report, and they were 3 days, that first one where they're we'll just lock down for 3 days, assess it. And then that cluster happened, and kind of shit just exploded, and they gave us a 48-hour window to come home from when we flew down. But all of the places of interest were the 2 supermarkets near our house.
Oh shit.
They were really, really close to our house, and we weren't vaccinated, and I was really worried about my wife being pregnant and putting her in a situation where it was dangerous. So we decided we'll just, if it's only a couple of weeks, we'll just stay here for a couple of weeks and just kind of see how it's going. And then it just ended up being kind of spiraled and got worse. And not having Bob there, it's crazy. Having him, you probably know, bro, you just talk to your dog so much. You walk past him.
Full what's up, buddy? Bro.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, just not having that, not having someone to force you to go out of the house to get some exercise or to exercise them. It was kind of it was all good down there. It was nice being with family, but it definitely was going kind of crazy in the last kind of 2 weeks, because I was just hey, we're living in a subdivision. Everything's the same. I don't know when we're going to be able to get home. Thankfully my parents were looking after him, but he's being a hunter, he's so intelligent, and he vibes on your feelings as well. He is the best thing I've ever done. It's my wife's first pet, and I grew up with dogs my whole life, and being honestly, it will change your life having a dog.
Oh, absolutely, bro.
And last year lockdown, that first one rattled me big time mentally, because I was I've quit my job. We're going to do this. We're going to go to America.
Yeah,
I've got
absolutely.
my grand plan was like, we're all
Yeah.
set up. We're going to go. And then it just like pulled out from underneath me, from going from like a steady job, like getting paid quite well, to being like, fuck, we've got to go week to week selling clothes, but we can't ship anything.
Shit.
Remember in that first lockdown, you couldn't ship anything
Yeah.
unless it was essential.
Yeah.
And so we didn't ship anything. And it was just like, have I made the right decision? Have I done this? And then you're like, I'm going to go for a big walk with him, and everything can like clear your mind. And
Nice.
then you tell him all your things that you're worried about. And he just listens, you know, he's so smart and so attentive, and
Absolutely man's best friend, eh?
100%. Like I can't really explain it, but yeah, the amount of secrets he knows, not secrets, but like things that you
intimate details.
Things you need to get off your chest that you don't really know how to talk to a human about. He'll listen. Yeah. And he's not going to go like, fuck up, Dad, boring.
Throw the fucking stick, would you?
Yeah, you know, like he's there. It's good.
Yeah. I like with my dog, it doesn't matter what's going on. He's gonna be there.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, no matter how bad or good, he's there.
Yeah, 100%.
He's there.
Like right now he's figured out, because he's obsessed with chasing swallows. He's figured out he can look out the window and see them. Look at this, bro. Look at his tail.
Oh man.
So he'll just sit and he'll just look for birds out the window.
Yep.
And then you have to like get him away, otherwise he just like he gets so focused on bloody birds. Hey Bob, any birds? A few birds about, eh? Any birds?
Bro, just before we wrap up, man.
Yeah.
Just this conversation, bro. This kōrero's been awesome, bro. I've got sore cheeks just, bro, from laughing. And,
I've had an absolute blast. Like it's kind of nice to talk to people. Like now you kind of forget that this is going to go on a podcast. It's just like having a chat with your mate, and
it's been awesome, man.
It's nice to get like my, I don't know, a bit about me. You know, you're not just a person that replies to DMs in the inbox. You know, you're like an actual human.
Human, yeah. And my name's not Percy.
Yeah, can be Percy, but it's not Percy.
Yeah, I guess just the last thing, I wanted to give you the last word, mate. Like, is there anything that you wanted to say or share about what you do, or something? It doesn't have to be advice, doesn't have to be anything inspirational, but just to give you the opportunity, your last word.
I don't like. Respect people on social media is the big one.
Cool.
People, we all run businesses behind here. We're all trying to like, it's not a rat race, and we can all work better as a community together. And I think this podcast is a perfect, everyone does the Instagram lives and we all sell stuff on there, but having like a chat and getting people to open up about why they do it, what they love about it, adds more substance to people's business and their Instagram. And it's very easy just to be like, I know that guy from Instagram, but you don't actually know that guy from Instagram. Like I like to think that there's a few pages out there that really put their like heart and their personality into their pages. It's not about making money. It's about providing content that brings other people joy, and to respect those people behind those pages. And it's not about being like finding more grails than this guy, or like I've got a better op shop lady than you. Like it's we're all in this together, and if we can all work together, everybody wins.
Yeah, man. Like
everybody wins. Like no matter whether you've got 50 followers or you've got 20,000 followers, that's just a number. It doesn't mean shit. Like it doesn't matter how many followers you have, you're still somebody that has mental health issues, somebody that's got to try and find money for rent, somebody that like fucking likes doing drugs, whatever, you know. That's just a number. Everyone's a human behind it. And by doing things like this and trying to open up and be better, it's better for everybody. Like, I don't know, I get quite wound up sometimes in my own head, just trying to be like, everyone's competing, everyone's doing this. But actually, like, my wife's that perfect balance where I get to be like, no, it's just a pay. Like, that's just a number. You're still like a nerd that likes shit that people say is for kids. Like, at the end of the day, no one's better than anybody. Everyone's a human. That's my final word.
Bro, what a way to finish, bro. Beautiful, poetic.
Yeah.